What are the questions that we have for Texas football headed into spring practice? Now, the Longhorns have announced they will start practicing on March 6th. Yes, folks, that's very, very soon. We are about to get some spring football headed our way. But when it comes to Texas in 2023, the stage is set. Like, you've gone through the growing pains of year one, and that was awful. Year two, you saw a little bit more progress. It's still not the standard at Texas, but it's a step in the right direction. Year three, it's like, okay, we got 10 of 11 starters coming back. We've got the quarterback to get it done, on paper at least, if he can make good on what we have hoped for when he came to the 40 acres. But there's a lot of pressure is what I'm trying to tell you. So what needs to happen? What are some things that we're watching very closely for Texas throughout these 15 practices? Now, obviously, we're not really going to get to watch a ton, you and me, in terms of being able to flip on the TV and say, oh, spring practice is on. We'll watch the spring game. But what I'm curious is the reports. The folks over on Inside Texas, our Texas on 3 site, Bobby Burton, Justin Wells, Joe Cook, what are they saying about practice? That's what I really want to hone in on. The first thing I'm looking at, the first question I have really, is Quinn Ewers taking another step as a vocal leader. Now, I'm not saying he isn't a leader in that locker room. Do not get it twisted. What I'm saying is, whenever you want to have change, whenever you want to have a major impact, more often than not, it takes somebody saying something, right? It takes somebody being willing to straighten up the back, get the vocal cords going a little bit, and just sort of be the voice of change. And that's maybe a little bit dramatic, but I think with your quarterback and the direction of Texas football right now, him taking that next step as a vocal leader, I think is important. Because think about it this way. Great teams, the teams that compete for national titles and compete for hardware in December and late November, like, they're led by the quarterback. And so I don't want to have this misunderstood. I'm not saying Quinn isn't already a great leader. What I'm saying is I want him to be the vocal leader. I want him to be the guy that is firing up the offense, firing up the defense, being someone who's leading the team as a whole and making his presence felt. Now, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. Everybody knows it. He did chop the mullet, okay? Now, I'm not one to read too far into that and say this is totally a new Quinn Ewers. If we're looking at it from like the Colin Cowherd angle, who's someone I have a ton of admiration, respect for, and loved watching while I was interning at Fox while I was in college, you could say that, okay, now he's all business. Now he's trying to eliminate distractions. Maybe you buy into that, maybe you don't. But I think him taking that next step as a leader and being the vocal presence, which it sounds like is starting to become more and more of a thing, him taking that role on, I think would benefit Texas greatly. So I'm excited to see that next step. Now it's his second year in the saddle as a starter. Like, I think this is his chance to really assert himself even more so in that role within this team. I got more thoughts on this, but if you have not yet subscribed, we'd love to have you a part of this. Shout out to all the Longhorn faithful that have joined us throughout the past few months. It's been, I would venture to say, north of 5,000 of you, so thank you for that. If you have not yet joined the process or joined the program, we'd love to have you. Also, follow me on the socials at JD Piquel on Twitter as well as on Instagram. This is a platform we're going to keep talking about Texas football well into the spring, and we're going to keep giving you our thoughts and analysis, but also some intel. We got boots on the ground in Austin. We'll give you some intel, so make sure you're locked in. Make sure you're subscribed. This next thing that I want to see from Texas in the spring, and the next thing I want to hear about, it's going to sound a little bit weird, but stick with me. I want to hear about things getting chippy in Austin for spring practice. Like, I want to hear about good, clean, competitive practices, but I want to hear about, hey, there was a skirmish that broke out during wide receiver and DBs, one-on-ones, inside run. There was a skirmish going on between the trenches. And it sounds a little bit weird, but the reason why I say this is whenever you have skirmishes, to use a word, small fights break out in practice, that is a good thing for your football team. Now, if that's going on during the season, maybe it's an issue, but during spring practice, that is a very good thing. What that means is there is a standard being held by the leaders across the board, and if you fail to meet that standard, we're going to get in your face and we're going to let you know about it. That, hey, you're not playing up to par for what we expect here at Texas. And how much have we talked about the culture and the progress that's made and the way it's headed? If you get some chippiness, you have some leaders that are holding guys to a standard, that's a really positive sign when it comes to culture. So again, we may not see it. It's not going to be something we get to see with our own eyes unless we get like cell phone footage leaked or something like that. But if you hear about, hey, it's kind of getting chippy at practice, that's a good thing. So the first thing it means is leaders are holding up the standard, which I think is encouraging for everyone involved. The second thing that means is competitive juice is very, very high. Another good thing for the culture. You hear about that 2019 LSU team with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, just all the ballers they had on that team. They also had a lot of alphas on defense, okay? And you would hear stories about fights breaking out during practice, not because they didn't like each other. They loved each other. They were brothers in arms. But to go back and forth during practice and to be so competitive to where it crescendos to the point where, hey, we got to have an altercation about it and just physical juices overflow a little bit, again, that is a good thing. Because what's going to happen is you take that competitive juice and you take that competitive environment that you're creating in spring practice, and when you get to playing against another color in the fall, then they got to deal with those competitive juices. Then they got to deal with what you've been bottling up for several weeks now throughout spring into fall camp. So chippiness in spring is a very good thing, and I want to see more of that from Texas. I want to hear about that from Texas because that's a step in the right direction for culture. Again, standard being upheld, competitive juices overflowing. What marks good football teams, to be honest with you, in those kinds of settings, having been in them. Now, I don't want to just hit on the big names. We already talked about Quinn Ewers, and I don't mean to be overly general here, but I want to know what's going on with Xavier Worthy. He didn't hit the portal, which is a good thing. But we all saw what happened in that bowl game. There were times where he didn't seem 100% locked in, times where he didn't seem like he, and I hesitate to say this, didn't seem like he maybe gave 100% effort. Again, speculation. I do not know without a doubt what's going on with Xavier Worthy. So I say this in a very speculating kind of way. But I'm just curious to see what his level of buy-in is. Is he chasing down the deep balls? Are we reading about him being the alpha in wide receiver drills and him taking the first reps all the time and him setting the competitive tempo in those drills? Is that what we're hearing about with Xavier Worthy, or do we hear more of the same, more of a couple of uncharacteristic drops, couple of plays where it looks like he didn't really chase down that deep ball? And the reason why I say this is we saw what happened in the bowl game, and he tweeted out afterwards, hey, that's not me. That's not who I want to be, was the message I got from those tweets. So he's still there right now, is what I'm telling you. There's going to be another chance to transfer out after spring practice. I am not at all insinuating he's going to do that. But I would love to see him have a different gear from what we saw in the bowl game in spring practice. Because Xavier Worthy's got the talent to be an absolute dog yet again in 2023. I don't think anybody's questioning the talent. I don't think anybody's questioning the work ethic. I think it's just the speculation that's gone around with, is he going to stay at Texas? And then people ask him straight up, he says, I'm just focused on the bowl game. Like, you could have shut that door right there, man. You could have shut the door and said, yeah, I'm happy to be at Texas. We're going to stay at Texas. It's going to be great. Now this is something we're talking about. So I'm excited for Xavier Worthy. Again, I think he's going to be a baller. Just curious to hear what the reports are from him early in spring practice. Because in spring ball, there's some exciting things about it, right? Because you are getting back on the football field and you're done with winter conditioning and that's not quite as heavy of a lift anymore. But at the same time, like, it's 15 practices. You are beating the heck out of each other. It is not against another team. It doesn't count for anything for you going to the NFL. Like, there's some monotony involved with spring practice. Actually, a lot of monotony, especially once you get past those first three practices. So, excited for Xavier Worthy. Just curious to hear about the report for how he looks. All right. This has been The Hard Count. Nick Brake, Lifting Heavy. I'm JD Piquel. Follow me on Twitter at JD Piquel on Instagram as well. I think I said Twitter already. But subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, we want y'all along for the ride. We want y'all a part of this. We're going to watch this like a hawk, but we're going to keep the party rolling. And we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.